is in Ireland, correct?
That's right.
Got it.
Right. So from Dublin, I started as a network engineer working for a company where the kind of projects that I used to do was building out global POP sites, so point of presence where the whole network infrastructures are laid out. So it's from day one, I was passionate about cybersecurity and information security. So when we're building POP sites, it was all about security, networking, and all of those roles. But then eventually, when I moved to UK to do my masters, I joined Vodafone UK, and then that was back in 2007 that I joined Vodafone, and I went into managed services area, right? And that's where I think it gave me a lot of learning about how technology and business come together. Because managed services is all about a different board game in that context, right? And eventually, back in 2008, I moved back to Pakistan, where then I got involved in various different roles, leading different organizations like New Horizon, Inbox, and Infotex, and these are some of the big names out there in the Pakistani market, doing pre-sales roles, technical lead architect roles, CTO roles, and things like that.
Very
And
nice.
then just a few years back, got a chance to go to Middle East to do a major project to set up a cloud service provider and spent some 4 or 5 years there, and then back again in Pakistan to start my own startup.
So that project you did in Saudi Arabia, was that the longest project, the most complex one you worked on?
I would say yes, because in terms of duration, definitely it was a 3.5, 4 year project, and then it went on with operations for 5 years. But I think what made me, in terms of my learning, and in terms of getting more focused on a lot of things, I think that project had made is a base to all of that as well.
Okay, good deal, good deal. So you chose these careers, and predominantly, I think if I heard you correctly, you are focused on cybersecurity. I heard managed services, and I heard IT architecture. I mean, you don't just get to these roles right away. It takes time and effort to build yourself up to those roles. You've been a CTO, and you've done
Yeah.
some really interesting work. And it's not a very long time period, as I noticed that you've actually accomplished all those things. So, what made you select this career path, and what were some of the drivers?
I think the most important driver, to be honest, is passion, right? If you're passionate and you're hardworking, you can achieve what you like. So when I got into my career, I was focused on doing things in cybersecurity space as I started, right? It was a passion, and I really wanted to do things. And then back in 2008, I was doing cloud, right? When I talked to people about cloud, it wasn't easy to convince them that what cloud is all about, right? There's been a lot of fancy moments around it as well. But the whole idea was push yourself hard, keep focused, having your own passionate ideas, work towards it, and then you actually achieve what you like to do. So I started off with managed services, get into cloud, and cybersecurity was always part of cloud, right? Because when you do cloud projects, and my experience of cloud is not just taking small companies or customers to cloud, but actually a niche that I have is building cloud service providers, which is not a very common expertise around, to be honest, right? Because there are not much people around that can do those things. So I've built, Alhamdulillah, been lucky enough to do 4 to 5 service providers till date. So I'm very fortunate enough, and I thank God for that opportunities. So those experiences, right, and having this whole, I think, push from my father of getting into business. So that's all it boils down to. And then cybersecurity has always been my passion, to be honest, right? That's why my master's thesis was Wi-Fi security, based on which I was selected to go to MIT on a scholarship, right? So it's always been there. So when we started off, even I have certain design patterns to my name, which is again cloud security. I have a cloud security manager course, which is a global certification by Cloud Credential Council. That's authored by myself. It's a global certification that's running out in the industry. I think there's more than 5,000 people certified till date.
Yes.
Things like that. So whatever I've done, cybersecurity has been part of it, right? And that's been my role. I've been leading as a technical architecture. I've done those things, and then big data I went into when I went into cloud for the Saudi government project, as I said, and data was something that started fascinating me there. And
Mm-hmm.
then got into AI, ML stuff because that's what needs to happen in the cloud and very efficiently and effectively. And
Yeah.
that's where we got into innovation and things like that. I've had the liberty to deliver a lot of valuable projects in where it gives value to the end customers in terms of the whole life cycle, how they
Yeah.
interact and they come up with those things. So that's been my career path, honestly. And then I started this startup whereby cybersecurity has been a core focus of our services, innovation. And as soon as we started, the first project we got as an organization was to build a cloud oriented digital only bank in the Middle East. So, Alhamdulillah, very big project. We delivered successfully as a startup. And yeah, so but it's I think it's a lot of people sometimes when they even it's about careers, because here we're not talking about technical stuff. It's but in terms of career wise, my only thing is a lot of people just go and switch jobs based on where they're provided more financial strongness, right, and strong financial reasoning to move around. But I've never been guided by that aspect, to be honest. I've always been in terms of looking at what is in better for me in the longer term. Maybe it's not the financial aspect, but it's the job role that
Mm-hmm.
takes me to the next level.
Okay.
So that is something that I think has made my career path develop into what I am today.
Yeah, I
So,
think going back to the previous point you made that money is not everything, and you have to have passion. You have to like what you're doing. If you don't like what you're doing, and for example, as a mentor, I tell you go do cybersecurity, and you have no interest in it, then obviously long term you may not succeed, or you may just get bored out of your mind and just lose interest. So definitely make sure if you want to get into cybersecurity is that you actually like what you see and you actually understand it eventually, and hang out with people like Kumail, so that you can actually make some progress. And at the end of it, this group is all about us recruiting mentees that we can pair up with mentors like Kumail and myself and help you with your career transition. Good deal. Let's kind of, I don't know if we can be close here, but I think I did ask a raise of hands, and if everybody could open up their chat window on the left, and I'm going to ask a question. If the answer is yes, please type yes, so we can count how many people are, have that answer. So, how many here are considering starting their own business? So I just typed in yes because I have to pursue a career like Kumail has. I mean, mashallah, I have a lot to learn from you, man. Um, Anybody else want to type it into the chat window? Okay, we'll move on. So let's now switch gears and talk about, we've talked about your personal life, we've talked about your education, your career. Let's talk about entrepreneur. How do you become an entrepreneur, and what led you to becoming one? What were the forces behind it? What were you thinking? Because I'll share my thoughts with you after you, that what I went through to become an entrepreneur. So inshallah, let's start with you.
right. So, as I said, my family has always been into business, right? So, but some of my personal reasons were needed some financial independence, right? You want to grow, you want to have that kind of luxury to make those kind of difficult decisions, yes. But they have a difference that you can create in the whole society, right? So that gives you the freedom, right, to do and make an impact into the complete society. You can help the community is one part that I really focus on, because giving back to the community is something I live and breathe very deeply, and that's why I'm here, right? I would really, that's what I've been taught throughout my life. And we all know, even the religion, our religion, Islam, teaches of the same things, is we should give back, right? If I have something that I can give it back to in some way to the community, I should be able to do. And being an entrepreneur with my company, I can help people achieve certain things as with my own wish and will, right? So that's the other part. And then expanding on the experience and knowledge that I have, right? So we'll talk about certain challenges as an entrepreneur we might face, but that might come as other questions and discussion points. But you have to expand on your experience. I would say I had some very good technical experience and expertise and knowledge in those areas. But when you start as an entrepreneur, you have to start learning on a lot of things, and small things like finance, the legal stuff, and things like that. So all of these things made me learn, and the consistent innovation and learning process, right? How do you lead your own organization, and then transforming yourself? Because as an entrepreneur, then you're learning. You're not only selling, right? So you have to be, because everybody, for example, till date we have no salespeople, right? People work with us through believing that we can deliver what we do, because we never overcome it, right? So things like that, right? I wanted to be a business owner and an entrepreneur in that context, that people work with us with full confidence of what we can deliver.
Sure,
So
sure.
that's the whole idea.
Yeah, that's very important because um, my takeaway on this particular point is that you have, people buy from people that make them feel better or feel good, right? People
Right.
remember how they feel. People don't remember what they heard or what they saw. People remember how they felt. So the two things that I typically, when I talk to my clients and my colleagues, I talk about is two things you have to establish, not only as a professional, maybe a cybersecurity engineer or a cybersecurity architect, whatever it is that you're becoming. If you don't have that trust established with whoever your client is or your customer is, they won't buy from you, right? They won't
Yeah.
hire you. And if they don't respect you, they won't hire you. They won't talk to you. So it is that human interaction, that level of comfort that you have to establish as a professional, as an entrepreneur, before you see success. And I can't
Right.
stress enough how important that is, that, out of all of this, no matter what field you go into, that piece that you talked about, Kumail, empathy is a key word. You have to have
Yep.
empathy. You have to have understanding, the understanding of the body language. Your social intelligence, if you will, right? Before becoming an entrepreneur, those are like the mandatory things. How do you get those? Well, that's where you pair up with mentors like Kumail, and he will guide you on what that really means. And today is like a very concentrated session. So I know that there's a lot of stuff we're covering that perhaps some of you are listening for the first time, hearing for the first time, but it's not scary. It's actually very simple. We just said there's a science behind it, and Kumail and I actually know how to instill that into our mentees. So now you seem like a pretty normal guy. So what would is there something that would surprise people about your day to day?
Uh, yeah, I can share what I do. Will it surprise or not? That really depends on how people are today. But yeah, some of the things that I think I do differently and has made me a successful, or wherever I am today, right? Is some A lot of people, especially when I meet people, they're like, "What do you do in the day?" Right? I spend at least 30% of my time today still on reading, researching, and acquiring more knowledge. Now, that knowledge doesn't mean that I'm just focused towards cybersecurity or cloud. As an entrepreneur, now I have to look at a lot of other areas. How do I develop my teams? How do I instill empathy? How do I make them grow? Because first I was the brand ambassador only. Now I have a team, and if I want, like as I said, we don't have a salesperson in our organization. We get 75% of repeat customer orders for our services. So we really believe in our people as a brand and how they deliver services, right?
Oh, that's important. Yeah.
Yeah. So based on that, so when I summarize my day, I look at how do I improve, right? 30% of my time on reading, maybe I do a lot of things that one thing very important that I didn't used to do before as a technical person, and I think to become a good, successful entrepreneur, you need to do, which I guess my father's been telling me from day one, but didn't have a chance to focus is networking with people, right? I used to network, but I just thought with the technical people. But I guess the horizon very much changes when you come to an entrepreneur lifestyle, right? You have to know people, and the other part is wherever you are, whatever you're speaking, you're representing the same brand, right? So you might be at a social event where you're just talking about yourself, but it's not just the technical side, right? Maybe it's your belief system that people get impressed with and they want to work with you.
Yes.
And
Very
that's where the opportunity comes. They might not want to do a cybersecurity project with some other company just because they know maybe Kumail is new in the market, but we know that he doesn't lie, for example, right? He delivers what he says, he doesn't overcome it,
good.
right?
Yeah.
So those are certain things that I try to instill into my team and spend a lot of my time. And thirdly, which I say I spend my time a lot at least, is on the voluntary work. I start writing. I did spend a lot of my time with a lot of people who I could help as mentor.
Hmm.
Other than that, I also spend a lot of my time with different organizations, coming up with some best practice documents. Like example, I work with NIST in the US and the NIST cybersecurity framework. I've been a author and I've done some part in that to publish that the privacy framework that's coming in. So again, giving back to society, right? It's very important. And people don't realize, but how, when you do these things, you learn so much from it. And
Hmm.
that's what makes you successful in what you even deliver to the customers. So giving back to society and doing those voluntary work, creating those networks where you could actually leverage from a business aspect, and then focusing on your learning and the skill set that you need to go in the future.
So you're saying you're not spending 30% of your time with Chef Google, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I have to say, I admit that I am not an avid reader. I actually outsource that to my wife, and but I do need to do a better job. Reading is essential, and so is networking. What does that mean? You go to a party or a shadi or whatever, you have people around you. You never know who you're going to run into. Every single experience, if you don't project that image that you want as an entrepreneur, a successful entrepreneur, then that's a missed opportunity, right? It's the way you carry yourself as a professional and as an entrepreneur. Good deal. Let's quickly talk about, so we're about 35 minutes into our presentation, and hopefully we want to wrap it up in about 10 minutes. So let's talk about quickly about challenges and their impacts. And talk about a couple of challenges you've faced as a professional, as an individual, through the course of your career and your life that have had a profound impact on your decisions. And what were those?
I guess it's been life brings a lot of challenges, definitely, right? But there's a lot of, and I think the if you develop the attitude of learning from each challenge, that's one key success area that you can focus on, right? So the most important is how do you actually make decisions and take ownerships of that, right? Well, and building teams is very important, right? Either you want to be a professional, because even if you want to be a great professional and not an entrepreneur, you will eventually go up the ladder, hopefully, and you will be managing teams. And I would like to talk about that one particular challenge very deeply, right? Because I think people here will eventually have to get into that aspect. Either they get into entrepreneurship or as professional leaders, right? So building a team is one of the biggest challenge, right? And taking the ownership of the team, right? The first thing people do is start putting fingers across the teams if something goes wrong. I think if a challenge came, it fails, the leader should take the responsibility, right? The ownership. It's all about sharing and caring for each other, and it's all about empathy, right? You have to build very strong relationships between the team members. You hire the right guy, you make sure that the guy has the skills that you need. And if there is certain things, you can't get 100% skilled person, right, that fulfills 100% of the whole role. So in that context, you can always make a plan of how to improve that person, right? Because at the end of the day, you have to work very closely with your team. Because if you want to deliver your services, your projects in the context and in the goal that you've set for yourselves, being a professional or an entrepreneur, you need the team to deliver it in the same way. They have to value and they have to respect and they have to be part of the overall decision making. Until they know why a certain decision is made, it is extremely hard for them to do it. You need to build them as future leaders. You have to build them as what you want them to be or what they want to be and something in between so you both can be successful, right? Certain decisions you cannot take it at senior level, right? I would want to do a deployment of, say, a product A, but I am reliant on my team member who will actually go and deploy. The quality of deployment he will do will reflect the quality of deployment my company has done, right? So not all decisions are made at the senior level. We all need to understand those team members have to have a vocal voice. They have to speak out, and you have to take them positively to do that. And that's the biggest challenge I've had, to be honest, right? But that's what I've learned in my entire career till date is you need to, if you want to be successful, you have to build a team that actually believes in your goals, it believes in what you believe, and you all work together, right? And then try to achieve the same goal. So it revolves around the same context, right? And we're all working in the same space. So these challenges keep popping up in terms of building them. And then, we all focus on continuous learning, as I said.
Mhm.
All my team believes in the same belief circle of giving back to society, right? So, for
Sure.
example, if I hire somebody, one of my interview questions is, what do you want to do? Again, do they believe into something like giving back to society? Do they do any voluntary work? Do they spend that time? If not, maybe they don't do it today, but they still have a vision to do it, right? Because that has to align with what I am today. They might be the best tech people to deliver what it needs to, but they might not fit into the culture of my organization, right? So
Yeah.
these are challenges that I've faced as part of my career, and that impacts how I do things today.
Yeah, I think I want to touch on some very important points you said here. Going back to the trust and respect piece, you have to trust your team. And when you trust your team, they deliver mostly. And then as a result of that, they respect you for trusting them. It's a key statement because if they respect you, then they will honor your decisions and they will actually promote your agenda, right? So many of you may not be in an entrepreneurial capacity right now. You may be students, you may be professionals working as individual contributors. Same concept applies to you. If you trust your team member, they trust you, and there's a respect amongst you, common objectives, common goals, right? And that's one of the things that we actually coach in our mentorship exercise. As we walk folks like you through a program, we actually help you understand what is your social capital. Where are you? Are you actually interacting with people the way that you should be interacting with them? Forget about the cybersecurity or risk or whatever you're doing. That's the functional technical aspect, right? We'll guide you there. But the very important thing is the human aspect of it. Helping you understand what is a culture. How do you meld yourself with a culture? When you go to an interview, for example, what answers, what questions? How do you answer those questions, right? And you're looking at the interviewer, they're asking you questions. What exactly are they thinking? So those are some of the things that I think we go through our program. Kumail and I have, had those discussions. Like, how do we prepare our mentees to be successful in general, no matter what the field they go into, right? And you've touched on some really important points. So I think we're ending up towards the end of the presentation. We've talked about a lot of things. We've talked about cybersecurity, your career as in cybersecurity. We've talked about entrepreneurship. We've talked about the importance of the human factor. What if you were to boil it down to just a few points, right? Some key takeaways, and then we'll go into Q&A. What would you say? Something I can remember because in a law of retention, I'm probably gonna remember about 30% of it less. So give us some bullet points.
Right. So I'll give it in very shortest form I can that people can remember, right? So for me, there's four things very important as I would divide it into. One is the human aspect, first one, right? So have empathy for others. Plan your day in the context how you want to do it. You just have a limited time. You might have a lot of things to do. Focus on what is important. Plan it. Planning is very, very important, right? We should be doing it. How many of you do it? That's what something you need to incorporate in your own daily routine. The other part is business. If you want to be an entrepreneur, you have to have a well defined goal. You need to have defined KPIs starting from your own self, right? You just don't give targets to your team. You should have targets for your own self, right? If you, again, that goes back to the same point, the whole team is responsible. So you're not above that team, right? You need to focus on targeting with everyone how and what they need to achieve their KPIs, and then stay focused. Go out, do exactly what needs to be done to achieve that goal, and hence the team does the same, and you achieve what your goal is. The other important aspect I would talk about is learning. So you need to create a very strong learning path, again, for yourself and for your team members, right? And that goes on an individual level. Some might be very good at A, but they need to do B. So you need to support them on B, right? So somebody might need to understand or have a better training on, say, presentation skills, but he has a very good technical understanding. Let's help them do that, right? It doesn't mean that you have to procure some trainings from outside. You can, but you might have a very good internal person who's doing it very good. Why not ask him to help the team? It builds much better synergy between the team, and they each learn from each other, right? And then you include learning which are not even technology related, right? So they have to understand the business. That's what I understand as part of my role in managed services in Vodafone. Technology does very good. It helps you transform businesses, but businesses is all about making money, right?
Mhm.
So you have to understand the business models. You have to understand how a business would actually make sure of getting a managed services versus a simple product deployment, right? It's a very different context from a business standpoint. So you
Sure.
need to learn from those things. And the one important standpoint is you can learn from anyone, right? It can be a 4-year-old son of mine to somebody who's my father's age, right? Who has no experience of technology, right? But he's seen changing from an old style TVs, which were like elephant size, to something that we all have small mobile phones today. He's seen that transformation, right? And how people have gone accustomed to. So I think for me at least, I learn from everybody, and I think everybody should be learning. Maybe it's a child, maybe it's a 2-year-old child that you ask in your house that can actually make you learn how to be patient enough, I guess. That's
Yeah.
even important, right?
Yeah.
So learning can be from anyone, and then giving back, right? You, once you're up to that level, or maybe you're already there, right? There's always something that you can give back to society. I'm not talking about financially. I'm just saying you could mentor others, maybe. You could be talking about quality stuff with anybody. You could be talking about technical aspects, business aspects, some personal advice to somebody in some shape or form, right? And take baby steps towards what you want to achieve. Don't take a leap. Don't think about moving too fast, too quick, right? Make sure whatever you plan out, and it in baby steps, and be consistent in your doing. And if you do all that with hard work, I'm sure God will bless you with all that you want to do in life.
Yeah, I think follow up to what you're saying is do your best and have trust in our Creator. And
Yeah.
no matter how much you plan, something could go wrong, and you have to accept failure. So accepting failures is a major um, career attribute. I would call it a career attribute that you have to be bold enough to, number one, admit mistakes.
Yeah.
People that I've seen that are very successful in my career that I've seen are the ones that if they are either they realize themselves or someone tells them they've made a mistake, they admit it and they say, "Yeah, I made a mistake. I'm human. I'm going to move on and learn from this experience."
Yeah.
So that's
I think that's a very important point that you raised, Faisal.
yeah, and it's all about. So I want to come back to our mentorship program real quick before we go into Q&A. So we do have a very well established mentorship program, and in that program we pair up folks like yourself who may be a professional or you may be a student, and we pair you up with a mentor, maybe a cybersecurity mentor or a cloud computing mentor, and so on. We have a limited set of um, areas that we work with, and then we help you prepare for your, you either you're transitioning to a new career or you're actually entering the job market for the first time. And what sets you apart as a person that people will value to and they will enjoy working with? That's really what it's all about, right? That you have to prepare yourself in an all-rounded, well-rounded capacity. Don't just think about what courses do I need or what papers can I read or what certifications can I get. Those are all important, right? They are door openers. A certification of a CISSP will open the door for you, no problem. When you walk into that room and you actually sit down in front of an interviewer and you're not reading their body language correctly and you're not answering their questions that the way they want you to answer, and you can read on that pretty quickly, then your CISSP is of no use. So that's a guarantee. I've seen that. I've experienced it myself. So this entire program is about helping you become a well-rounded professional. And that professional, if you are well-rounded and you actually practice what you learn, eventually you get into a mindset where you can actually become an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurship doesn't come right away. It takes time. In my humble opinion, give it about 3 to 5 years at least before you start thinking about opening your company. Get some experience, right? So with that, anything else to add, Kumail?
No, I think you've covered quite well. You need to. I think that's one more thing. And with starting up small, the new startup cultures coming around. Yes, as out of college people can do, but people look at a lot of people come to me and say, you look at Mark Zuckerberg and people like that who actually delivered very nicely. Yes, they delivered straight out of college maybe, and they did it very well. But
Mhm.
one people need to understand, and that's what I would focus on, and that's what made me successful is they were around the right people. The people around them were experienced. They knew what they were doing, right? So you might see a phase that was a fresh grad phase coming out of college and delivering, but they had the right people, the right expertise around them. So so
I agree.
that's so that's what is really important as I feel it.
That's it's like if I used to have a lot of friends in Karachi when I was, we used to go play cricket and do all of these things and kind of waste time. That in that age, you don't think about time. You just want to get out.
Exactly.
But my mother always made sure that I hung out with the right people because you're known by the company you keep. So if she ever found out that I was talking to someone who may have a bad, maybe a shady reputation, or my mother, obviously my mom knows everything, right? Would not approve of. She would advise and coach me, right? So it's very important that you look at your relationships, people that are around you, or the people that you are around, and understand, are they creating toxicity in your life? Are they toxic to you in any way? Are they negative in any way? Because a lot of negative influence actually would lead you in the wrong direction. And that's very true in a professional life. When you get into a job, you will see positive people, you will see negative people. And
Definitely.
it's very important to recognize that pattern and, you know, kind of stay away from those negative people. So without further ado, let's get into some questions. So first question is from Shahzaib. Shahzaib says, I'm a CS student, so what I prefer right now is to absorb knowledge regarding the topics in which I am interested. And basis of that on that basis, I'll select my future field. These days I'm researching on cybersecurity. Can you please refer to any sites or material that I can go into deep to understand this field? How do I get started? Well,
Yeah. So it really depends, right? As a starter, you could start with the basics around cybersecurity, fundamentals, get the concepts of CIA triads and all those things, right? You can start. See, there's you could go to Cybrary as a site if you like. You could go to Udemy and all these websites have a lot of good stuff there. You could start from there. You get paid access, free access, depending on the time and what those courses are. There's a lot of things going on. Cybrary, which is very focused on cybersecurity, and I'm sure there's others. I follow Cybrary, Udemy, and things like that. edX in that context as well. So
okay.
these are some of the things that I follow. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I would add to that that read up on cybersecurity and understand what area. Cybersecurity is very large, by the way. There's many, many things in cybersecurity. It's an entire universe. Understand and recognize the areas within cybersecurity that you have most interest in, that you perhaps understand. Because remember this, let's say if you're a software developer, for example, and you want to look at getting into cybersecurity, then the most probable path for you is to become a software security expert, right? Because you understand the code, you know how things connect together, how the code is built and pushed out, and so on. You would actually relate to the software security aspect of cybersecurity. It would be a lot easier for you to adapt. Once you get into it, you can make a lateral movement if you want. And I know lateral movement is a bad term in cybersecurity, but in this case, it's a good move. And if you're a student entering this field for the first time, you're kind of discovering what's out there. Don't go too deep. Basically, understand what the different aspects of cybersecurity are, and then decide which area you want to dive into. Don't just start taking courses and start doing, I'm going to do AWS, I'm gonna do this and that. Make a plan. Make a plan and execute that plan. And most importantly, set aside milestones and dates that by this date, I'm going to become this or I'll have this. Otherwise, you don't want to be all over the place. You don't want to be a scatterbrain. You want to be very focused on what you're doing. Okay. So I hope that that answered your question. Second question is there a document which lays out a roadmap for a small startup to protect their solution hosted in the cloud, a health app? So I'm guessing this is someone asking, it's Arif who's asking that you have a software company or you're working with a company that you have a health app, you want to protect it. How do I do that? Right. So obviously you can hire Kumail. Kumail can help you. And
Yeah.
in other cases, you can actually go to there's a consortium out there. It's based in the U.S. OWASP, Open Web Application Security Project, and they have very extensive guidance on how to secure web applications. And most recently, they have started to go into um, web microservices and Kubernetes and those kinds of things, where they are actually generating papers on this. Then you also have Cloud Security Alliance. Cloud Security Alliance has extensive guidance on how to secure your stuff in the cloud, whatever that cloud means. And that is something that we also, if you decide to join us as a mentee, we can actually give you additional guidance and help you create a path in that direction. Any other questions? So I have a question for you, Kumail.
Yeah.
What's next in your life?
Um, making sure that what I've started, I achieve the goal that I've set for myself. Hopefully, that'll be creating a organization based out of Pakistan that reaches global scale. Today, even our business is 75% global business, to be honest. But reaching the fame that a Pakistani company is can deliver quality service. Yes, and people work with us. No matter, I've had experiences, good and bad, about representing Pakistan, honestly speaking, but I've stick my guns to it, right? And I would want that to be changed. And a lot of times I hear is, can people from Pakistan deliver this really? And I really want to tell them that organizations from Pakistan can deliver that quality. So I just want to make sure that I raise that question if I can.
Okay, and my last departing point is that I left Pakistan in 1989. To some, most of you weren't even born at that time, right? Except for maybe Humayun Bhai. And I would say that it is a privilege to be able to travel globally and learn different experiences. But you have to hang out with the right people, right? So we have all been there, done that, and we're openly wanting to share that with you. And it's up to you to take the initiative and have a serious plan to reach out to us. The LinkedIn profiles are posted in the chat. You can connect with us. Just make a reference that you heard us in the Ponder Alliance, talk, so that we don't just know that you're just a spammer, because there's a lot of spammers on LinkedIn. So connect with us and get with Humayun Qureshi and find out more about this mentorship program and see how you fit. And you will be very pleasantly surprised as to how many options you have that in people in Pakistan don't even know about. And folks like Kumail and I have. Now, I live in the U.S. and I see the latest and greatest that is happening, on a bleeding edge stuff. I can share that with everyone. And I want people in Pakistan to succeed, because as a nation, I want Pakistan to succeed. And we have the right leadership at the top. But what we have to do now is we have to work from the bottom up and prepare our students and prepare our professionals to become well rounded. It's so important for you to become well rounded, not just functionally and technically, but also as a person. I want to work with you if you're a pleasant person, right? If you have a good personality, you're positive about things, you can read my body language and anticipate what I'm asking. That's a wonderful thing to have. Okay. So, inshallah, we look forward to interacting with you, and let's move this forward. If there are no other questions, Kumail, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure and an honor to speak to you. And hopefully, we'll talk again soon.
Yeah, thank you very much, everyone, especially Ponder Alliance and Faisal yourself for giving the opportunity to speak.
Oh, Salman Khwaja would like to speak. How do I enable your mic, Salman? I'm not sure. I'm not using this platform for the first time. Before we,
Hi,
yes, go ahead.
can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Right. I would like to have links to LinkedIn that you were saying about mentees.
You see the chat window on the left-hand side? If you click on that chat icon, bottom left, do you see some comments?
Right, I got it. I got it. I got it. I got it.
Okay.
Okay. So I just have to connect to Faisal Ansari and Faisal Ansari.
No, no, no. I actually
Okay.
provided both links for Kumail and myself. And just to know that, we have slightly varying and sets of expertise and experience. So based on what you're pursuing and what you're interested in or curious about, you can connect to both of us, and we can
Okay.
start a dialogue.
Okay. Awesome.
Okay.
Awesome.
And also, for those of you who are here, if you have friends and social circles, please do go to Powder Alliance YouTube channel and pick up the link to this webcast and share with your friends someone you think that can benefit from this talk, someone who can benefit from these connections that we're providing to you. And I can't stress enough how powerful this media is, and we are here to help. All
Okay.
right. And there's a Ponder Alliance website and an email address. It's also on the chat window if anybody would like to start. And anything that you do, like if you want to join our program, either as a volunteer, we are looking for some dedicated volunteers for a team that Kumail and I are managing right now, the mentor team. We need some people to help us. So if you're a student or a professional and you want to help us, we would really welcome it. All right. Without further ado, thank you very much. Any other questions? All right. Thank you everybody for joining the session today, and it's been a pleasure. Have a wonderful rest of the afternoon. Assalamu alaikum.
How do I this question? Can everyone hear me?
Thank you for joining us. This has been Ponder Line's Career Guidance Series. Stay tuned to our YouTube channel for more.